All right. So here we are with Remnant. I already forget the subtitle.
From the Ashes.
From the Ashes.
That one.
Remnant from the Ashes. This has like, man, it's sad that this such a good game has such a hard to remember name. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty generic.
It sounds like one of the we were talking about in the last video we did, randomly generated names, and this one it sounds like a randomly generated name.
So this is a boss fight from towards the end of the first area?
Towards the end of like the third area, I think? No, the second area.
No, I think
this was in
the second area. Right.
But I'm not actually convinced. Now, this is one of the features that we don't get to show off, so I want to go into it real quick. I'm not convinced that it's always the second area. This game, like, has different permutations of the story. I think the same... I think... Again, I'm not sure on this because I've only played the story once, but... I believe it has different permutations of the story. Like, you will go through this shit in different order, and the story will adjust itself based on the order. So, like, in one playthrough, you might fight a giant tree boss at the end of a swamp. In another playthrough, you might fight a magical bee wizard at the end of a swamp, which is the first area you go to instead of the third, you know?
I don't know how much they... I mean, it's hard to tell, because it's...
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so all of the bosses have very, like, they're all pretty unique, and actually this game has a lot of different boss fights, like, a lot of different ones. In a lot of ways, this game is what I wanted Destiny to be.
It's kind of funny, because this is, like, to me, it just gives me a Dark Souls vibe, which I'm sure it's supposed to, but it's if Dark Souls were just a shooter.
Okay, but think about it. This guy, this boss fight on this platform is so reminiscent of that one that we played at like the first raid or whatever in Destiny 2.
Oh yeah, this is definitely very reminiscent of Destiny 2, of a raid in Destiny 2.
Yeah, so
I actually remember this distinctly.
Yeah, and we all played it together. So, you know, I don't know. It's funny how it's easy to make several comparisons.
Yeah, like, aesthetically, I can see the Dark Souls comparison pretty good.
This game curbs a lot from Dark Souls, actually. Oh, we just lost.
Ooh. So the ways that it compares to Dark Souls
yes, I see. I saw right there. There it is.
Yeah. Bonfire. You don't actually lose anything when you die. You just get to retry. Like, they did away with the losing shit when you die.
The only thing you do lose is if you use consumables, those don't respawn. But
you do have a Dragonheart, which has charges that recharge and is a healing item every time you step in a bonfire. You can upgrade that as you go along to have more charges. You know that kind of fare. But primarily, gameplay-wise, it's a shooter. Like, you're not gonna get the same, like, sticky kind of methodical, precise gameplay that you have in Dark Souls. It's still a shooter, right?
Yeah.
But it's a very hardcore shooter.
It's a very difficult shooter. And there is melee attacks too, which I think I end up resorting to them a little bit in this gameplay because ammo is pretty scarce too, or it can be, and often it is in boss fights. And and you also get, in addition to just a number of different weapons you get to use, there's also a variety of, like, weapon modifiers. And you see me summoning some, like, floating skull dudes. That's a thing that's, like, when you do enough damage, you fill a meter, and then you can use that meter to summon a dude.
Yeah, it's like a special ability that you get for dealing with damage with the weapon that you put the ability onto. And those are, like, freely interchangeable. So if you want to switch weapons, you could just take your skull mod off your pistol and put it on your shotgun instead.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, unless it's a unique weapon, in which case they often have, like, ones that, like, mods that are tied to it.
Yeah. So, like, this guy...
They ain't fucking around with the whole give up thing. Nah, that just says kill self. Yeah, like each of the, you could see, I'm trying to get his shield down so he stops fucking shooting at me, and then he summons guys, and I was like, oh, well, there's no way I'm gonna get you now, saying sorry.
Press X to kill self.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah.
One thing around.
One thing that sucks is that enemies don't necessarily target you on the ground, but bosses will target you with AoE attacks, for sure. And that can kill you while you're on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think some enemies just straight up stand by you and wait. Like I've seen enemies just stand there. So
like
I feel
guarding
I feel like they straight up just guard corpses. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Now, one thing I want to point out is we're both wearing the same armor set. That is by choice. That's not because we don't have any armor. That's just because
you both wanted to be cowboys.
Well, it's actually cultist gear, but yes.
Each set, like armor set, has additionally has a like set bonus thing. So if you're wearing 3 pieces for this one, you get increased mod power generation, which is what you need to use the abilities.
Yeah.
In the future of Dark Souls, there's guns and the cowboy coats.
There's another one that just increases damage flat, and I think there's... I don't remember what the last one is. Maybe... Yeah, I don't remember. But,
extra crit power or something?
Maybe, I don't remember. Yeah. It's the one that you started with, I think.
Yeah, I think it's extra crit power. Well, it's extra weak spot damage, which... This guy doesn't have a weak spot, but many enemies do have a weak spot, and you deal quite a significant amount of damage by shooting it. Many enemies
just one giant rock.
No.
Yeah, you can see me shooting that guy's head, which does red numbers.
Okay.
Yellow numbers are random crits, and sometimes you'll get big red numbers, which are both.
Which are random crits and weak spot.
And, okay. So it has random crits on top of the Borderlands headshot ability.
Yeah.
In fact, I have an ability that just increases random crit chance. So.
Yeah, every now and then he'll turn orange, and that's Dalsson using that ability.
Yeah. And you can see the little skull dude, like the Doom fucker, just shooting projectiles. It's just a little bit of extra damage. It helps a lot, too, because it splits aggro sometimes. If you're lucky.
Soul, baby.
And then there's there's a different mod that is like more summons. So if you wanted, you could have 4 dudes running around
by yourself. 8 if you're playing as with a person.
Yeah.
More if you can generate the mod before these guys despawn.
Also, I think this game is up to 4 players, so
yeah.
I'm not sure what happens when everyone's using them, but
you probably won't be able to shoot the enemies with your guns anymore, because there is friendly fire.
Yeah.
Your friendly fire is significantly reduced.
I feel like in this game, because like you can see there's like a massive area, and it's pretty easy to distinguish the monsters from your friends. I feel like this is a good game to have friendly fire in, because I can tell what the
in this zone, but there are definitely lots of corridors and places. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have so many. Saine gets so pissed off at me because. Okay.
Actually, I think it's in. I think it's in the next zone that it kept happening, where you kept shooting me.
From my perspective, I'm standing still trying to shoot something. Saine is probably trying to run away from something, but then he crosses in front of me during the one shot that I take. So I miss my shot and hurt him.
Ah yes, 9 parchments. I am aware.
This game also has this game also has invulnerability frames unlike the last one, so that's cool.
Yeah.
There are a number of different weapons. I'm using the assault rifle, which even the items you find I think are pretty random because I'm not wearing it right now, but I have a different hat than this one that has health regen on it. And Dalsson's never found an equivalent of it, so...
yeah, the areas that... I don't know if it's entirely true that the bosses change. I read that somewhere. I think the bosses change or change order. But I am positive that the areas, like, we're 100% that the areas change. Yeah, like, you get randomly... It's not like a Dark Souls, oh, this is Blight Town, it always looks exactly the same. It'd be like if Blight Town's paths branched in different areas every single time you went into
Oh,
it.
so it's got like Diablo random map generation?
Yeah, that's it. It's got like Diablo random map generation.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would say it's like Diablo, because it can get pretty complex even. Like, it's not just random branching paths that go random directions. It's also just, like, the insides of buildings will be places sometimes, and it's kind of a lot, yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that I wanted to, that I know I read about on that note, like, on the note of the items that you find, they wanted to ensure that all of the loot you got felt like getting a legendary in any other game. So when you find a purple item, like that means it's new equipment. All of your equipment is unique stuff. So you might find, you'll see a purple and you'll be like, ooh, that is a new gun. That's not just pistol but better. That's a different pistol. That is a assault rifle.
Fun.
That is a ring that does something unique instead of just a ring of +1 strength.
Except I've never found an alternative to the pistol. I feel like the pistol is the only pistol, but definitely primary weapons for sure.
Yeah, we have a lot of primaries, no new pistols, but I feel like the pistol can't be the only pistol because there's an equip button on the pistol. There's like a change equipment button on the pistol.
There probably is another one later on, but we have not found it yet. So, and I have a number of guns. I think later on I'll go through and like look at them, but right now it's like,
wow, you know, I thought that all of our footage was gonna be in that boss room, to be honest, because
we died on him a lot?
Yeah, we died on him so much that I thought it just took us like 30 fucking minutes to kill the guy.
It did, but I only grabbed the last 3. I happened to start recording like the last 3 times, so
yeah, that makes sense.
And I didn't cut anything out of this footage. This goes straight through. And in fact, we're gonna go like talk to an NPC for a little bit in here. Oh, actually, first we go back to the base. So this is your little base, and I'm gonna show you, like, after you get a thing from killing a boss, they give you a thing to take to a crafter, and then they'll give you like some sort of weapon or mod or something from them.
Yeah, that's that's like Dark Souls bosses. Like they always give you a soul, but it doesn't seem like you have an option. Like you'll get the soul, and you'll get this item. It's not like in Dark Souls, sometimes you'll have the option of taking them to a couple of different crafters. We haven't encountered that yet, if it exists.
So there's me putting on my other mask.
I am kind of wondering if you play the game again, because it's focused on replayability. Like that world generation thing wouldn't be the way it is if it weren't meant to be replayed, right?
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure that you can play it infinitely. It seems like that kind of game.
If you, what I'm wondering is if you beat the same boss again and get the same like item, what do you do with it? Because you can't build the same weapon twice, presumably. Or if you can, I don't know why you'd want to. Yeah, so we just got this like alien plasma rifle. This is what we were talking about with the mods. This one has an alternate fire or a mod, a spell, that's basically like Zarya's Graviton Surge from Overwatch.
Unfortunately, it has friendly fire.
Yeah, so it pulls you in as well. But you can't remove it. You see it says not removable, so you can't replace that mod with, like, that weapon just comes with that mod. If you want to use that weapon, that's the mod you're using. It's a good weapon, but I don't use it because I like to have the, like, freedom of what mod I want. So,
and one thing you can do with all of the equipment that you get is you can dump iron, forged iron, and whatever comes past that to just add more pluses to the weapon and armor, so you can keep adding to their like points kind of forever, as long as you have crafting materials for it. And then also for money you have scrap, which is like the yellow drops. So
yeah, so I really like all the systems that this game's kind of built in, especially with the like persistent co-op. One of the I know I keep comparing it to Dark Souls, but that's what you get when you compare yourself to Dark Souls game. So
yeah,
in Dark Souls, you have to summon people, at the beginning of a area or whatever, which means that you have to progress in both of your games simultaneously, and phantoms don't get loot or whatever. And in this game, it's just you drop into somebody else's world and you go and you get the same shit they do. Like anytime you pick up a purple, it adds it to both people in your party. So like,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So we every weapon that Saine has, I have, and vice versa, except for that mask because he played a little bit without me, which is another thing. That doesn't really matter. Like you can be a little bit desynced on XP or whatever. It scales pretty decently.
Yeah, and the
Plus, the game's
experience system thing that they do is they have trait cards, which
Oh,
is
yeah,
like
we haven't
another
talked about
thing.
that.
Yeah, I opened the menu earlier and then it was like a bunch of little rectangles. Well, the way that this game kind of works on experiences, as you get experience, you get a trait point. And then you can put those trait points into your trait cards, and which trait cards you have available varies depending on like what things have happened to you. So one example is I have something called I don't even remember what it's called, but it's for reviving players. Oh, it's Revivalist. So because I've revived a number of players, Dalsson,
I.e. me.
Yeah.
Because I've gone down so often.
it's unlocked the trait card for me to be able to pick people up faster if I put points into it. There's another one that's like reduces stamina drain. There's like more health, more stamina, more like faster mod generation. There's faster
so you
reload
kind of,
speed. There's reduced damage from ranged attacks. There's like all sorts of things. But in the very beginning, you only start with health, stamina, and the mod gen. So like as you play, you unlock more abilities to put points into.
right. Which putting points into health, stamina, or like spell casting, like those are your three basic things. So they're a good thing to start you out with. But
Yeah, and they're very
Like,
basic stat bonuses, and that's all. But like,
all of them are
But they're-
pretty like minuscule stat bonuses. Like there's one card which every trait point reduces your the damage that you receive from ranged by 1%. But
Yeah,
the
but
trait points go pretty.
you get so many
Pretty
trait
high up.
points that you can. That's probably not that big of a deal. Because what I usually do is I don't put points in every time I get a trait point. Usually I'll wait for 5 or 10, and then kind of dump them all in at once. So like it's not like because they don't do that much individually, you also kind of get a lot of them.
Yeah,
This man is the god of the Dark Samuses.
he is the god of the dark.
His name
Samuses.
is literally the Undying King, or something like that.
Yeah.
Dark Souls, I am aware.
So the story in this game, while much more clear than Dark Souls, is
much
also
more directly delivered to you, basically.
well, yeah, okay. While
Yes
much
and
more
no.
while much more
Okay.
directly delivered to you than Dark Souls, is much more confusing than Dark Souls.
I see, alright.
In Dark Souls, you go across a lake to get to a tower to kill a big bad dude and light the bonfire, and then you're the big bad dude. Like, that's Dark Souls. That's all three of them. That's what you do. In this game, you go to a tower and then you're stuck with a bunch of freedom fighters because this root is taking over the entire world. And so you're thinking, okay, that's what the game's gonna be about, right? I'm gonna be fighting these root monsters and shit, right?
And then
Then immediately you go to different fucking dimensions.
And this
Yeah.
dimension here is the dimension where they killed the root by nuking it.
Yeah, they glassed the world, and now this is the remnants after they nuked the root. And this guy's worried that the root is going to come back to his world, so he wants you to fuck off to another dimension, kill the thing that is holding the root back from their world, and bring it back to his world so that he can make something to hold back the root from his own world. What do we know about that other world? What's gonna happen to them? Well, they're gonna die. Fuck them.
Well, they're probably
you know
gonna
what?
end up fighting the root. Is probably what's gonna happen.
Yeah, they're gonna end up fighting the root. And you know what? That place is such a hellhole. I think the
It's
root might make it
better
better.
off.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I'm here and it's like a very clear like quote unquote morality decision. It's like, do you want to align yourself with the Undying King, or do you want to Yeah, here it is. Retrieve the beast heart so that you can save his world, or refuse and so you can save their world. And it's so I'm like, I start asking him other questions, but in the end I'm like, yeah, I'll go with the crazy mummy, and then if we decide to double cross him, that we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And then we start running around to the next zone, and we're like, fuck this place. Let's go ahead and work with the Undead
this
King.
place is awful. Let's take the fucking Guardian Heart from this world. This place deserves to die. I like the glass world.
Yeah, but it seems like there's the potential that if you refuse him, then you have to fight him, and then you might just get the key that you would get anyway.
Yeah, because we
killing
saw
him, maybe.
There's a giant portal to him, like behind him. We saw a giant portal somewhere else that matches this, and he uses a key to open it. So presumably, if you refuse to do this for him, you wind up fighting this guy, kill the key, go through the portal from a different way. Because I actually remember when we go through this portal that's behind the guy, we run around and we find the other portal that would have been from a different place. So I know there's two entrances to that area.
Yeah, that definitely happens for sure. And it's very obvious because you go in this thing called the labyrinth, which is like the multiverse door room, essentially. Yeah. And there's a door that's like, clearly this one was going to be the swamp door, and we just didn't go that way.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's why I think that the story probably like permutates based on like maybe in a different version of the story, the swamp door opens up first, and they're like, our world has a guardian, but the undying gun mummy wants to steal it from us, so we need you to go to this world and kill him. You know, it might play out different.
It's one of those things where it's really difficult to be able to tell you what things are different, because we've both played a little bit of the beginning each, and then we started playing together. So and we're only like in the second or third zone or whatever, so we don't even know how far it goes and how much changes. One thing that is nice, though, is each zone...
There's at least 2 or 3 more zones.
Yeah, and each zone is pretty significantly different from the other ones.
And they're large. It's not like we're going through, like, oh, good, zone Act 1, zone Act 2, zone Act 3. There's, like, each zone, and then there's a whole shit ton of dungeons, and most of the dungeons in a boss. And you'll eventually find the big boss.
Some of them are shorter than others, though. I thought this one with the Undying King or whatever, I thought that one was actually kind of short compared to the first one.
Yeah, it was. I think we did this in one session, and we're on like our 4th session in the swamp.
Yeah, and the first zone was also really long as well.
Yeah.
Where's the stairs?
If you decide to pick up this game, don't be fooled by the first zone. The whole game is not that. I assume that I would be fighting those same 20 fucking enemies in the first zone for the whole game, but no. Like Saine said, each zone is very significantly different.
Yeah.
Like you could see earlier in the video, we were running around in this desert with like alien mummies and like stone guardians and shit. And then we'll go into this swamp area. There's a whole shit tons of different dudes, like different hazards, different things to watch out for.
And it's not as even as if they're just reskins of the same enemies. They are very significantly different enemies, which is pretty cool.
I always really love that shit.
Yeah, like you can see some dogs in the distance there. Those things burrow into the ground and come up at you. Like there is no other enemy in the game that we've encountered that does that. Sure, there are enemies that like rush you down really fast, but it's different when they're burrowing at you.
There are other burrowing enemies as well, but they don't attack you in the same way even from doing that too.
Right. And then again, each of the bosses is pretty unique. Some of the bosses, I think like the dungeon bosses instead of the end boss of an area, a lot of them will, after you fight them, actually turn into normal enemies in the world. Like, you know,
well, sometimes you'll run into the normal version first, though.
Yeah, that's true. You could do that. Yeah, so honestly, a lot of there's just a lot going on in this game that makes me want to play it for a very long time.
It's both long and difficult, which is good because it makes that length even longer. And it's very addictive. Like this game, I don't think This is probably my favorite multiplayer game this year so far that I've played. Like, easily.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy this.
And like I said earlier, this is what I wanted Destiny to be. Destiny is also, you know, I enjoy Destiny, it's fun. But, like, compared to this game, I just like this game way better.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is, like, easily a recommendation for me. Like, this is probably one of the ones that has been, like, the easiest recommendation possible. It's a little bit difficult, but other than that, like, if you can deal with the difficulty...
I think it's difficult enough, but it's not, like...
Well, I mean, certain
hard.
people don't want to deal with it, and I get that.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to deal with that, this is not the game for you. But as like this has to be one of the most difficult shooters I've played in a long time, and that's good.
Sure.
That's good from my perspective. So.
It's quite satisfying to take down the bosses too. Like I said, bosses are one of my favorite things in video games, and when you have well-designed bosses, you have some good shit. And this thing has well-designed bosses, but a lot of them do boil down to like a lot of like swarm tactics. That you have to pay attention to the boss and the ads that it's constantly spawning. Most of them are like that.
Yeah, but each of them
not
is
bad.
unique in how they do it.
Yeah,
even
how they
though,
do it, and each of the ads are different for that matter. Basically.
Yeah, and even then, like, all of the bosses, like, some of the bosses we fought have been very clear, like, different versions of enemies that exist in, like, Dark Souls. Or that one we fought was kind of like the one in Destiny. Right now we're playing one that is, like, that first boss on the bridge from Dark Souls 1. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that character called?
Not right now in the video, but right now what we're stuck on. We're stuck on a boss fight that's like... It's a lot like Moonlight Butterfly.
I got pulled into the explosion.
This death right here is the reason that I stopped using that weapon. I'm like, okay, I don't want to use that weapon anymore. It sucks.
And that enemy was the first time we ever saw that enemy. That crack up every time I see us fall on our asses like that.
I know, you just like get expelled from the crystal when you respawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's Remnant from the Ashes.
Yeah.
It's a really good game.
Yeah, it looks like.
Very good game. Try to remember the name. Remnant from the Ashes.
It's been on like the top
Because
of the
we
Steam
sure as hell
recommendation list
can't.
for like days.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I guess everybody already knows this game is great.
Well, I bought it on the first day it came out, so...
Yeah, that's fair.
Alright.
Yeah, so... Yeah. Thanks for joining us, as always. Like, comment, subscribe. Remember, as always...
to stay beautiful.